Good morning. Our hand today is pocket sixes. Played this a few days ago, and it was a little strange how it played out. So I'm going to review it and consider what villain could be making the play that he did make. So in this hand, we had two limpers and then to me. So this first limper, I should say second limper, villain 5 is playing 34-2. I've got 230 some hands on him. He does limp a lot. He rarely raises. You can just see limp and call to raise. 38% limp and fold, 63%. Now that's 3 out of 8 and 5 out of 8. But when you look at limp with previous limpers, 33%, 2 out of 6. His overall limp with previous limpers, 36%, 18 out of 50. So I think he's doing this with a very wide range of hands. I'm giving him something like this. That's at 28%. And this might still be a little bit tighter, but he is early position. And I would assume that a lot of these players are going to be tightening up just a little bit. So then it's on me. I did look at isolation raises. So isolation raises, some of the ranges include or they cut off at sevens. I think sixes and fives could be okay. Versus we don't know anything about this player, and at this point, I think when I looked at his limp and fold, he's doing that for 63%. So I thought I could raise it here and possibly just pick up the pot. But if I get called, I still have pocket sixes. I think raising's much better than limping. And yeah, while I could fold, I think the hand's just a little too strong to fold. So this is isolation raise that I could use. And it's close. I don't think I would. So my raise for my button raise, button range is something like this. I think this range is way too wide versus these two limpers. I think it's too optimistic that we'll get both of them to fold. So I don't like doing with the suited kings or the suited one gappers, but I also don't think I think the calling range here is way too tight. 3-bet, we can merge the calling and a raising range and kind of set that up, but again, that's kind of a little tight, or at least in my opinion, a little too tight. So I went with this. My raise size was 5 big blinds. Probably could have gone up to 6. So 5 big blinds plus 1 for an extra limper, and it folds back and villain 5 calls. So now when I've looked at his stats, villain 5 it's like 30%, and then we just said he limp and calls a raise like 30% of the time, a third of the time, approximately a third of the time. So I think we're going from this range, and we're going to have to narrow it down. So at this point, I think that he's getting rid of a lot of the speculative hands, a lot of the two gapper or the one gappers there. I think his offsuits hands are probably gone. I think he's keeping with all of his pocket pairs, probably the suited connectors, suited aces definitely, and some of these Broadway hands. It's not quite a third. We go from 28 down to 13%. So it's like maybe about 40-45% is what I have him calling at this point. And then he's folding, 55 to 60%, which I think is about right. So then flop comes out Jack 4-5. Not terrible for us. We've got some backdoor equity. We still have a pair. And we have a high card. A jack comes out. So, I think a player like this, when we see his fold to c-bet stat, 67% in position and out of position, I think we're at that area where we're going to be c-betting about 100%, which is what I did. C-bet with this, and he calls. And then the turn was actually decent. It gives us an open ender, gives us a club draw. And this is where things kind of get strange, because now villain min bets. And what do? Should I raise? Should I just call? I called. And then a jack comes out, and now villain bets 17. Basically all in. And I went ahead and folded. So, really it was this turn decision. I mean, what are we doing? And unfortunately, as we'll see in GTO Plus, I can't get in one big blind. I can't get a min bet here because it's not even GTO. So we're gonna have to kind of go through and figure out what works. I do kind of like my fold. So his Stack size right here, 17 big blinds. It's 18 big blinds at the start of the street. He bets 1. If I raise, I'm basically going to have to raise them all in. And if I raise, what hands are going to call? 7-6 is going to call. 7-8 is probably going to call. Any jack's going to call. I think a lot of the hands that are going to call are going to have me beat. Maybe the suited aces, with the clubs are going to call. Which, I beat them, but they have... they do have some equity on us. Any ace, probably they have a better kicker, or a kicker higher than a 6. So you've got at least those 6 outs, or I should say 4 outs in addition. No, 6. It's here. If they're suited, they have 6 outs plus all of the other club outs that are out there. So let's check out what GTO is suggesting. So GTO right off suggests that villain should be betting about 3% of the time, betting with Jack 10, betting with King Jack. Maybe he does that, maybe he doesn't. We should probably fix that and assume that he doesn't. A player like this isn't playing GTO. So we'll get those fixed. So he checked, announced to me we're betting, about 56% of the time. We're betting trip 5s, but it looks like 6s, 7s. We're checking here. I wonder if we bet villain's going to be folding 49%, he's probably folding more than that. So I think we can probably adjust that as well. But we'll say we bet. I still have some 6s in there, and then he calls. Now, what is he calling with? He should be calling with his jacks. He should be calling somewhat with some of these smaller cards. He's calling with his club, with his low club draws, but he should be raising. And again, a player like this, I'm not sure if he's going to be raising here as a bluff. So he calls, and now I've got, I did put in this small donk bet, 10%. That's as small as I could go. So he bet, and now it looks like we're calling 52% of the time, and it's good to see that 6s are actually calling and not raising. We're raising jacks, which is kind of what I expected. We're just going to call the flushes in the sets. I think we're just calling our flushes to let villain kind of bet for us. We're raising with the overpair top pair, and I think that's all the things that I would have been doing. Raising with 8s and 10s, I'm not sure if I would have raised with those, but it's good to see that we are supposed to raise with those. So he bet, and then I called, and this was a jack of spades. And then he bets, basically all in, and now villain. Now GTO says that I should be calling here. So let's change things up a little bit. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna say he's checking 100% of his range. No chance that he's going to be raising at all. Let me make sure I get all these. So I think I have 100% check. Let's run the solver. And I think I have to also... All right, so he's got 100% check. And now we're going to bet. And then I really don't think he's going to raise. I think sets can raise. A player like this, would they raise sets? Maybe not. Maybe they just call and see what comes on the turn. He definitely has that. Would he fold all of those hands? We're definitely going to adjust the calls. So like ace jack, I think calls, king jack calls, queen jack calls, jack 10, ace jack, those all call. I don't really think like these ace queen, king queen, ace queen are going to be raising. I don't think they will. I think ace 5 calls. I think ace 4 calls. I don't think they raise. Ace 3 and ace 2. I think we're gonna go those two folding. And I think we're folding all of those, including ace 10. However, we are going to make our flush draws call. All of our flush draws call. Now the question is, what about these middle pairs? I do think they call. And then I think these hands fold. Maybe 8-7 calls with the gut shot, but he's loose. 6-5 definitely calls. 7-6. We'll say 7-6 calls. All right. King, queen. You gotta make sure that. So now we got the clubs calling. 2s and 3s fold. All right, let's get that. Now let's run the solver. I think that's probably closer to a play like this. He's short stacked. He's not going to be calling with just junk. So you can see that now my betting range changes. Sixes become, a bet more than 50% of the time. I think we're betting so much because he is going to be folding. I've got 47% folds, 53% calls, no raises whatsoever. So he calls, and now he's looking at betting. If he plays GTO, what kind of bets is he making? So it's all of the pink ones. He's betting the club draws, and I think that's realistic. I think he's betting the jack draws, the jacks hand. So I think that's totally realistic. Would he be betting some of these under pairs? 8s, 9s, 10s? I don't think so. I don't think he would bet those. I think he would check those. So let's fix those. I think he's I think a villain probably just checks those, but he's going to be betting the jacks, all of those jacks. He's shoving with all of those. I think he's shoving with trips. So with 7s, with 5s, with 4s. 6-5 and 7-6. I think those are going to be the small bet. He's connected. He's got a draw now, so now he's going to be betting. Might even be betting the jacks, because that has him shoving all of those. Let's do this. Let's adjust that. So he's just going to open shove with 4, 5, 6, 7s. Small bets with all the rest. So let's run the solver. So now once he makes that small bet, now it looks like we're still calling a lot. We're folding a lot of the hands that we just, it's junk at this point, but we are calling 5, 6s, and 7s. Okay, and then now he's going to be betting. Does he bet all? I think at this point, I think we made the right folds, because I do think at this point, he's shoving all in with all of those jacks. No doubt about it. I think he's probably betting with all his flushes and the quads. Middle pair, I don't think 7-6. I don't think he's betting that high. I think he's just going to check call with 6-5, check call with 6s. So even the 4s, ace 4. Yeah, weak pair. Let's get the weak pair here. Yeah, I think we're gonna do that. So if that is his range, I think our play is the fold. I think GTO would still somewhat keep players honest, but I don't think this player is bluffing at all. I think it's going to be an easy fold here. We would call with hands like 3 of a kind, flushes, full houses. I think even some of our 3 of a kinds we could possibly fold with the jacks. I don't know why we would. I guess we're protecting against a flush. I don't think we could fold the jacks. I don't think we could fold our flush draws. I think we call those, but I think all of our one pair hands, or even two pair hands, if well, they would be two pair, but all our one pair hands, the 7, 5, or 4, I think we just fold. So I think we did an okay job here. I'm glad to see that based on our read of this player, when it comes down to the turn, we don't get crazy, because I think if I do raise with this, I think when we think about what hands call, I think if we raise all in, he's going to be calling with all of his flushes, with all of his sets. I think jacks top pair call, but I think the middle pair folds, the weak pair folds, and we can also kind of, let's do that one last time. So I think all of the top pair call, the sets call. Middle pair, though, I think folds. And the weak pair folds. But our nut flush draws, our weak flush draws, the one pair hands, I think we've got them covered. So let's run this, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so now things changed a little bit. So now you can see that we're still calling, because we're protecting. If we raise, I think he's only calling when we're beat. So we're really just tightening up what we have. We're raising the overpairs because I think jacks are going to be calling us. So we're going to get some value from those, but we're not going to raise with like 9s or 10s. I think with trip jacks, we're going to let villain just kind of come along with us, because he does have possibility of some flushes, but like 6s are just going to be calling, 8s are just going to be calling here. Does that change everything else before us? It doesn't really look like it does. I think it probably does change some of the percentages, but I think overall we played this hand okay. There's not much I think that I would change on this hand. And we don't get to see his hand, so we don't know what he had. Alright, so hopefully you enjoy this. If you did, look tomorrow for another hand.